Today, I will take you, the testnet participants, through the process of using your OG tokens and many other things involved in this transition. Let me get started. We had a very heartening and amazing response to the incentivized testnet, way beyond our expectations, actually. We had 1,000+ nodes, deeply engaged communities on Telegram, Discord, Twitter, organic growth in numbers all across these. An interesting diversity in engagement. We had a Turkish and Indonesian channel created on the Discord servers pretty early on. And a couple of enthusiastic participants, in fact, converted the process of creating a node on Newrl into Indonesian as well, along with the YouTube video. The theme of inclusive Web3 is starting to take shape. That's what Newrl stands for, whether it's in the network or in DeFi or application layer partners all across. We want to make sure that this chasm between users and infrastructure is not perpetuated. What we mean by that is, typically on most blockchains, you are a mute spectator who's either speculating on the price of that token or doing some DeFi application use, etc., but you're rarely the node yourself, which is interesting because the Bitcoin original concept paper talks about peer-to-peer payments, which means it's the network run by peers. It's not like there's a separate network provider and a set of users, which brings back the whole centralization through the back door. We want to keep Newrl as an inclusive Web3 blockchain. And to that end, this testnet with 1,000+ nodes has been a testimony to the fact that given a choice, people would love to be party to that infrastructure themselves and not just use someone else's service. Now, because you participated in the Newrl Testnet before the deadline of the 9th October, midnight UCT, and kept your node running for more than 90%, leaving aside some technicalities and delays, all the nodes which did this are eligible for the OG token. This is not lottery based. This is for all who ran the node for that period and are still continuing to run it till 31st. Now, the OG tokens themselves, you can do several things with them. The simplest you can do is convert them to 1,000 Newrl tokens in 6 months, in which case you simply get 1,000 Newrl tokens at that point and walk away with it. You can transfer them, keep it as a souvenir, gift item, and so on and so forth. But the most important thing you can do with the OG token is use it to stake on your behalf from Newrl Foundation 500,000 Newrl tokens as you go to mainnet. For the testnet, we use the faucet. But of course, on mainnet, there is no faucet. You have to have real tokens. And that's what Newrl Foundation bridges the gap for you. So a typical validator who will show up on the mainnet for the first time will actually have to procure 500,000 Newrl tokens and then use that as a stake. Whereas you don't have to do that. You already get that based on the OG token that you got from the incentivized testnet. The process for that is very simple. You have to get your mainnet wallet activated. So for testnet, we told all of you that use any document, it doesn't matter. In mainnet, it does. So you have to actually have a valid KYC document. Depending on your jurisdiction, the verification may be seconds or minutes. But please do wait for the confirmation, and that will anyway show up as your wallet becomes active. The current site will work. We'll just have a flip button for testnet and mainnet. And if you go to mainnet, the same wallet, same keys work, but they'll now have to be backed by actual KYC documents. And once if you use the same address that you had used for your node in testnet, then if you're eligible, you'll anyway have received the OG token without even asking for it. It will just be there in your wallet as you activate it, or it will come within a few minutes. But if for some reason you think that you were eligible but weren't given the token, just let us know. We will sort it out, either tell you why you didn't get it or give it in case we have made a mistake. You can then stake the OG token using the wallet itself. It's a simple process within the validator management section of it now. A new section will be added. And the foundation will stake it for you. Just to be clear, these 500K Newrl tokens are staked on your behalf. They're not given to you. So only the rewards accruing to this will come to you and they'll be yours. Presumably over the 4-month period, you will earn enough and more rewards to be able to stake on your own. If you're not, you can procure the balance and continue to stake after 4 months as well. Anytime during this period also, you can stake. After the 4-month period, Newrl Foundation will anyway unstake it, and your stake from foundation will go to 0, but your own stake can be added in its place. Of course, you can stop the validation at any point of time up to the 4 months as well as afterwards if you do not wish to continue as a validator. But we would love for you to continue because the proof of trust protocol values early participants a lot more. So if tomorrow there are 5,000 nodes, they're not all equal. The nodes we join in later will actually have a lesser trust score to start with. And by that time, your trust score might have gone closer to 95, 100. 100 is the maximum, 10 is the starting point. And your probability of being selected as a node goes up. So your honest behavior is your capital in the sense, and the stake is just as a deterrent. Unlike a POS chain where higher money can get you higher probability, and that becomes egalitarian. What's needed for the mainnet node? A T3 medium configuration is enough on AWS image. You just create the instance in the copy of the image and it will auto start. The details are on this link. You can also run, just like testnet, from a non-AWS machine as well with the public IP and similar configuration as a T3 medium. It is slightly more detailed because you have to install the packages on your own now and also run the install and start script. But do not run the scripts in the AWS nodes because they'll throw an error since the processes are already running. How do you check if your node is a validator? A best effort scanner, just like now, is also available in Mainnet. So you can check there. You can also check your own wallet, and there is a test node set up there, just like current testnet. And your trust score will also keep improving gradually as you become a validator. And so do the Newrl token balances. The wallet.newrl.net uses multiple nodes to avoid centralization issues. So it can be slow at times and may pick a wrong node to take data from, or an inactive node to take data from. So bear with it and reload and wait in case you're not seeing the right data. And of course, you can check with us at the Newrl team in Discord, Telegram, any other channels as you like. But that's, I guess, the long and short of the transition from the testnet to mainnet. Will actually come out with a detailed video on 31st of October for all mainnet participants, including the current testnet as well as future aspiring validator nodes on Newrl. But till then, please feel free to continue to ask your questions on this webinar itself, as well as on the channels. Thank you so much for watching. Hi, everyone. So that's the starting point of the discussion. From here on, happy to take questions on the chat out here. Let me share this again. Okay, so we have the first question. Can you explain what you mean by Newrl staking on your behalf for mainnet? Does that mean we still need to run our AWS instance during this period, or we do not need to? Good question. And the very definitive answer is you will need to run the AWS instance, T3 medium. But the stake, which is required of 500,000 Newrl tokens to be an eligible validator in mainnet, you won't need to buy that and stake it. You will it will be staked on your behalf. So the way staking works in Newrl is anybody can stake for anyone else. Presumably they'll have some internal arrangement in the future. Currently, we're just assuming that everybody will stake for themselves. If you are a testnet participant and have received an OG token, or you give it to someone who wants to become a mainnet validator, you will that person will be able to use a separate special OG staking smart contract, which will then trigger the relevant set of actions to stake on your behalf, and then take it back after 4 months. In the meantime, your node will still need to be running, similar to how it was in testnet. And as a node creates blocks and participates in validation, the rewards accrue to that node and that wallet. And so you will get anywhere between 200 to 800,000 Newrl tokens, depending on your participation date and how long the node has been up and so on. So our estimate is that in 4 months, you'll more often than not will get to the 500K mark, at which point you can switch to using your own stake. But the foundation stake will then be taken back. So the foundation stake is not handed over to you. It is just used on your behalf while you don't have adequate tokens initially to start. Same logic as the faucet. So in faucet, anybody could ask for any number of tokens because it was testnet tokens. It didn't matter whether they were delivered freely. Obviously, in mainnet, we have to be more careful. Thank you. 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 Than So tokenomics and Newrl will include in our next video, because that is so this session is for testnet participants, educating them about how to transition to mainnet, because there are so many questions about that coming up. Tokenomics is obviously a general description for all who are interested in Newrl. There will be a lot of people who will join the mainnet directly as the participating node. So we want to keep it for that time when everybody who's interested in running a mainnet validator, including but not limited to the current testnet participants, at which point we'll talk about tokenomics in detail. We do plan to do a public sale. The aim is to do the public sale in about 9 to 10 months, September ideally, but if obviously we have very adverse market situation, we might postpone it by a few months here and there. But yeah, the plan is to do it by September next year. Price, of course, will be a function of what the markets can bear then. We are in the process of doing a seed token sale now. That's at about 1 cent, not about exactly 1 cent per Newrl token. Our aim is to try to take it to at least 10 or so by the time it goes public. Great. Any other questions here on the transition? So our seed sale is obviously we are doing it ourselves through a few connections, but currently we don't. The VCs will come in the private round, which will happen in March. Currently, the seed sale is only few influential angels or seed stage VCs. Our discussions are currently open. Current investors also might add in a bit more, but it's a small round, about $1 million. Our aim is to make Newrl tokens available on Newrl first, of course, but we may do a wrap Newrl token on one of the layer 2s of Ethereum, depending on, of course, what the interest level is. So we don't want to force people to show up on Newrl chain to be able to buy and sell it, but that's, of course, the preference. Thanks. We do wish to make it more widely accessible, and then gradually, hopefully, people will anyway buy it on Newrl itself. One KYC should run one node. Normally, that's the expectation. This is in the early days, it won't matter too much. It will be okay if people run more, but our hope is that the one person running one node avoids the sort of Sybil attacks and other such network concentrations which plague many other networks. So the hope here is that we'll have lots of people each running one node. That way, no one person has disproportionate power. Even if they have a lot of money, it just doesn't happen because it's just limited by one person. Of course, you could do it on behalf of your friends, and then it just has to be a real person. It's not necessary that same person runs the node. So you can let them set it up and run it and take a fee for it. There is a formal version of it that couple of formal validators are also trying, which is node as a service, which can also come about after the mainnet goes live. Sorry, I might have missed Dimitri's question. Sorry, Dimitri. All countries, yes, of course, all countries are eligible for KYC. We do not have any restriction on the countries currently. It just has to be valid KYC, that's all. So the logic here is that if there is ever a question about somebody's sort of traceability from a regulatory point of view, there is no question upon the identifiability of that person. In terms of KYC, who will do it? Currently, the Newrl team sitting in the formal legal entity ASCII Dubai, that's the one which will do it. We will outsource it to providers depending on the jurisdiction. So for example, for India, we already have tied up with a company called Authbridge. They'll do it in seconds. For other countries, depending on where we're seeing the maximum interest, we might start adding countries for automation. Till then, it will be in-house. We want to eventually get to a point where it is at a community level, but we are still some distance away from it. In future, in the medium term, the idea is to keep it nearly fully automated and nearly fully outsourced. But of course, to get off the ground, we want to just make sure that that's not a constraint. So in fact, it's a good question, Mohit. Are there projects building on Newrl which will launch on Mainnet this year? Let me see if I can share the screen of the relevant slides here. There are 9 application layer partners already signed up and who are working on specific applications varying from what we call warehouse agri-commodity receipts and their financing in TradFi as well as DeFi sense, to companies which are trying to do verification of a small business's financials as well as collateral using a decentralized group of lawyers and accountants and credit underwriters. We also have a company rewarding water savings in the form of water credit tokens, and then similarly a company in carbon credits. And one of the more important participants, one of the more active participants, active application layer participants we have is Mars Capital. I think they are on the call as well. They are trying to tokenize startup equity and get that to a much wider array of angel investors as against the conventional VC funds or large HNI angels. And we're also trying to explore fundraising with them for the POC of it. So the Mars team can actually add a few more details on the chat. Would love for them to expand on that topic. And let me see if I can share a specific slide on this. Right, so I found the screen. Yeah, so these are the partners that we already have lined up, and they already are developing the application. So they are testing it on testnet. So many of them will be able to go to mainnet this year itself, as in within the first couple of weeks of launch itself. We're talking about Arya, which is doing the warehouse warehouse receipt tokenization like rice, wheat, etc., agri commodities. Mars Capital we spoke about just now. They'll probably put up some more data here. Momo is doing remittances. Stealth Mode startup is doing carbon credits. Incentives doing ESOPs and so on. Carrot's doing brand tokenization. Aquarium is doing water credits. And Equida is doing SME, small business verification and their financing. Great. So we have a couple more questions here after Mohit's. Because we said 500K will be staked on our behalf or your behalf in 4 months, we'll have enough. That's the estimate. But yeah, that's not a guarantee. It could happen that it's based on the number of nodes. So if the number of nodes actually is again 1,000 plus going forward, then this number might be closer to 200, 250K by our estimate. If it's anything less than 500, then realistically most nodes will have, early nodes at least will have 400 to 600 anyway. And so that's the expectation. We will watch out for instances where a lot of early nodes just still miss out getting to that mark. And we may choose to extend it at that point by a month or two, so that everybody who's obviously been sincerely with us throughout has enough time to have enough of their own token. But of course, the aim is to not keep it as a open-ended thing. It will end some point. 4 months is what we're starting with. We might extend it by 1 month or 2 months. So the API question, sorry if I again might have missed the question here. Okay, so let me just go through the question one more time. API running to the node will be roughly 300% in the first 6 months for more likely than later. As the number of nodes picks up, the 300% comes down to maybe about 100 and then 20, and eventually at a 5,000 odd networks, 5,000 node strong network will come down to about 10% or so. So I think that's the broad math. Early movers will have a fairly high API and keeps dropping as number of nodes goes up. And a general sort of description of what the Newrl token stands for and essentially represents the volume of transaction on the Newrl blockchain. So as nodes, all of us essentially benefit from larger number of transactions being there. And like any other chain, there is a fees which goes to pay for transactions on Newrl. So that goes to deflate the supply of Newrl tokens over the long term, and also potentially fees payable in other stable coins, etc., which we want to enable, goes to purchase Newrl tokens from the open markets. One way or other, it is deflationary for Newrl tokens, and hence the value of each individual token goes up as the volume of transaction on Newrl picks up. So that's the fundamental driver of the price, besides, of course, the interest from the market to purchase it. Great. Any other questions? Great. So it looks like we have these many questions for now. If I missed a question, please type in now. But thank you all for joining in. And we're obviously doing the same event again tomorrow for those who missed today, as well as for the Americas, where the timelines are, the time slots are different. As I mentioned earlier also, we will do a full-fledged walkthrough of a mainnet node setup. Some of it might be repetitive for you because the testnet and mainnet nodes have very similar setup process, identical setup process. So bear with us then, but that is essentially for all who want to set up mainnet node, whether they participate in testnet or not. As I mentioned again, since you were in the testnet, you will have the OG tokens, and the ones who come in straight for mainnet, they won't have it. So they'll have to purchase the Newrl tokens to stake it. So that goes without saying. So with that, let me close it here, and thank you all again for joining in, and thanks for being part of this amazing testnet, and hopefully we'll hope to see you in mainnet as well. Thanks all. See you again.